The Secret of the Plumed Serpent by Armando Torres. Page 89. Becoming Healer's Assistant. At first, even after having received a great amount of instruction in the healer's art, I still didn't consider myself one. I despaired of my awkwardness and my failure to understand and apply the knowledge that I had received. I felt inept, and that troubled me, because whenever it was my turn to attend to someone, a strange pressure which I could only describe as apprehension, nervousness, or even anguish took hold of me. Noticing my frustration, Doña Silvia advised, "Never become obsessed with anything. Enjoy whatever you are doing. If at any time you feel that it is turning into hard work, put it aside for a while and do something else. You'll see that the moment to continue with whatever you were doing before will come of its own accord." When I told her about my nervousness, she said that I had to let go with that feeling. Letting oneself go was in any case the technique of contacting the spirit that guides the healers. Personally, I describe it as yielding to the pressure, not putting up a resistance. It is a matter of becoming part of the spirit that guides all healers. It means aligning with the emanations sorcerers share. On one occasion, while walking in the nearby hills collecting medicinal herbs, I was struck by lightning. More incredibly than it seems, apart from the fright, absolutely nothing happened to me. Doña Silvia, who was observing me from a distance, remained on the spot for a moment. Seeing that I was well, she smiled with delight and commented, "Now you have the authority to cure. You'll see that from now on you'll feel differently about healing." She was absolutely right. Since that time, whenever I've attended to a patient, I could feel his affliction within me, if one can put it that way. From the very start of my stay among them, I noticed the healers liked riddles and amused themselves by challenging one another to solve them. On one occasion, one of the assistants proposed a riddle. "What is it that goes on walking after the death of a person?" "It is the shoe," Doña Silvia replied, then challenged us with another one. "What is it that has legs but doesn't walk, yet moves around?" The riddles came in conjunction with the healing instruction or other information related to the topic. On that occasion, Doña Silvia taught us about the illness called elephantiasis and how it could be successfully treated by means of particular herbal infusions, baths, and therapeutic massages with olive ointments. To finish, she told us, the leg must be bandaged with herbal paste. The real problem with that illness is blood circulation. To get better, the patient must take a lot of tea and drink a lot of water. At the end of the meeting, as nobody had come up with the correct answer to her riddle, she said, smiling, "It is the chair, fools. It has 4 legs, but it does not walk, and it definitely moves whenever you use it." In the course of another conversation, I asked her about the purpose of the riddles, and she replied, "Everything in life has a riddle. In fact, the whole universe is a riddle to be solved." She added that the ancients used to deal with the world through riddles. Did you know that there's a personal riddle for every healer? That you have your own riddle, and that there is also one for the group, and even for our lineage? I didn't know anything of the sort. My curiosity was instantly aroused. What I believed to be an inconsequential game was turning out to be an infinitely more complex affair. I wanted to hear about my own personal puzzle, but Doña Silvia said it was something I'd have to find out for myself. I asked her then about the puzzle that referred to us as a group, and she offered. The turkey turns over the soil searching for food. The peasant injures the soil and places the seed in the wound. How many times must the soil be turned? How many seeds make a cornfield? I had no idea of the meaning of those words, so I asked Doña Silvia for an explanation. Laughingly, she said it was a riddle, the meaning of which I should discover by myself. She remained silent for a few moments, and then wondered if I was at all interested in the riddle pertaining to our lineage of healers-seers. "Of course I'm interested," I replied, suddenly conscious of my sluggishness. Doña Silvia spoke the lines. "The Oma pierces the divine circle. I set my eyes on the temple wall. I gaze at the beautiful, dazzling flower that opens in the morning. I light the fire to prepare my food." I told Doña Silvia that this riddle made even less sense than the previous one. She laughed and said that my reaction was understandable, as it was indeed a difficult riddle, and that the translation didn't help at all. Page 93. The Healer's Vows. Stories are wonderful learning tools. They are the scouts, the instruments the Spirit uses to prepare us for direct experience. In some ways, they are like a wedge or a lever, opening the way to a wider perception of the world for our awareness. Being able to act at the level of energy initially requires dynamic faith, similar to that of a farmer who plants a seed in the firm hope that he'll see it sprout. That particular kind of faith forces one to fine-tune in order to be able to perceive directly the energy one is beginning to use. St. Augustine states that faith and understanding are complementary rather than in opposition, saying that one must believe in order to understand, and understand in order to believe. It is the same kind of confidence a child has in the wind that helps fly his kite. Whether the wind will continue to blow or not is beyond the child's control, yet he maintains the expectation it will do so. Just like a dynamic faith, it is something that is in the realm of the spirit. All that is required of us is to do our part and trust the results will happen. For example, the standard energetic sensitization of the patient, sometimes described as magnetization, begins with rapid hand movements from the head to the feet, always from the top to the bottom. After a dozen or more repetitions, one can start the prescribed treatment of the patient, be it an infusion, muscle massage, stretching, or any other relevant procedure. We are energy beings. To see ourselves as anything else goes against modern science itself, as the latter is already moving towards recognizing that we are more than just crude animated organic matter. Using special devices, science has even managed to photograph aspects of human emotions, revealed in the photos as a range of colors. It is true that science still has a long way to go, but it has already taken the first steps. There will always be curious researchers willing to set prejudice aside in order to investigate issues that have generally gone unnoticed. As when someone says, "What his name had an incurable disease, and all the doctors had given up on him, so he went to a healer and the healer cured him." Who hasn't heard something similar? The strange thing is, the healing incident will immediately fall under the same suspicion that haunts poetically inclined sorcerers when they make unusual claims in their stories. In that respect, both situations are similar, because you can never satisfy the mind with a rational explanation of what happens in reality. The work of the healers, however, always has advantage over a sorcery story. Healers can show verifiable results to anyone willing to take the trouble to investigate. Like the discipline of the sorcerers, the healer's way requires seriousness, commitment, discipline, and dedication to the objective they pursue. One basic movement that can be done by anyone is to energize one's hands by rubbing them together. This movement generates heat, concentrated energy that can then be employed in different tasks or placed into a body part as required, such as energizing the eyes, ears, or throat. It can also be used to cure, relieve pain and fatigue, among other possible benefits. The sorcerer's secret is that, while rubbing their hands, they silently intend to achieve what they've set out to do. That is how they transform the rubbing of hands into a magical act. Among the healers, I have learned that one of the most effective vehicles of healing is water. When used in specific ways, it becomes not only a sacred medicine, but also a vehicle for connecting one with the other world. I once asked Don Harbinito about it. Although he suffered fits of madness, he was sane most of the time, and, to tell the truth, I felt most comfortable talking to him. Don Harbinito told me that the knowledge of water and its properties were a secret of power, and I should wait for the right time to learn about them. I saw his answer as a delicate and effective way of getting rid of me. I agreed to wait for the appropriate time, but only a few days later, I betook myself to Doña Silvia, asking her craftily to teach me the basic water techniques. She glanced at Don Harbinito with a severity that made him shrink. Then she addressed me, saying that she would teach me the first two maneuvers with water. You can use water as a source of health, she said. This procedure is available to everyone and brings enormous benefits to the body. The treatment involves drinking a glass of energized water just before bedtime and another one on waking up. The procedure is, as ever, simplicity itself. You fill a glass of water, rub your hands until hot, and put them on the water container. The water is thereby energized. If you wish, while the water is being energized, you can add a command such as, I infuse this water with healing vibrations for such and such a complaint, or to help achieve such and such an objective. The other technique Doña Silvia described involved putting coal, such as is used in a charcoal grill, into a glass of water and then give to the patient to drink. She said it was a miracle treatment that cured everything. At first, I thought she was making fun of me, but later realized, when using intent, anything was possible. The healers, in fact, offer the patients the opportunity to hold on to something in order to effect their recovery. In the words of the Nahua Juan Matus, one must start with the principle that everything is energy, because otherwise we will always be stopped by the hardness of the physical world. To be able to carry out these simple exercises, it is therefore necessary to begin by mentally conceiving of energy one can feel, though not yet see. This first step is very important in the general scheme of acceptance and perception of energy. And it is exactly where the wedge and the lever are placed. All you need is the desire to use them for the results to be guaranteed. Those interested must give themselves the opportunity to connect with the ideas of sorcerers, healers through exposure to their stories and healing treatments. One should start with the premise that one is ill and needs healing, and then show oneself willing to devote time and resources to seek that healing. In principle, good health comes first. When the physical body is a perfectly functional unit, the rest will come by itself. Prevention is the best remedy. The first thing, thus, is to recognize one's life, learning to be clean inside and outside. I know from experience how good and useful that is for the practitioner, not only for healing existing physical problems, but for the prevention of future conditions, perhaps even the genetically programmed ones. Experimenting with sorcerer's techniques, the apprentice may feel inhibited at first. When trying to talk to plants for the first time, for example, that feeling can be overcome simply by perseverance. As one progresses, one acquires a strange self-confidence that grows and helps one develop through successive stages of the path. The first expectation prospective healers must fulfill is that their intention to be sincere. Some call it charity or love for one's neighbor. Although incorrect, those terms do describe the healer's empathy with the suffering of others. There are many whose motivation is twisted. Such people can never become healers. Charity is something you either have or you don't. One can, of course, pretend to be charitable, but it is not the same thing, since what counts here is a hard-to-explain feeling, which serves to connect one with the spirit. However, in the final analysis, selfishness can be successfully used when applying healing techniques on oneself, with excellent results. The next item in the healer's code one needs to consider is one's predisposition. That is to say, one's desire, dedication, and the commitment of one's time to the path. Those who embark on the path by their own decision face the great challenge of keeping the flame of their awareness lit. The challenge is the same for the chosen ones, but the work it requires is much easier in their case. Practice is the third requirement of learning how to heal. Clearly, it implies study and training with the help of a master healer who is not an ordinary teacher, keeping a student seated before him while he rabbits on for hours, but rather a living example for one to follow, teaching through practice as he works. Being an assistant, which is the healer's term for an apprentice, is an honor for me and one of the greatest gifts of fortune I've had in my life. The practice of healing opened for me a world of possibilities I had not even imagined existed. Healers very often quote the biblical proverb that says, "Many are called, but few are chosen." They said that because they are always open and willing to attend to the needs of anyone crossing their path, as a gesture to the spirit. They know that every being is a reflection of the creative force. Helping another thus represents the minimum amount of impeccability for them. Deciding on who stays as an assistant and who must leave, however, lies outside the healer's remit. That outcome is always decided by the power. Daniel Silva told me there were some lineages of sorcerers that eschewed engagement and would do nothing even if someone appeared to be dying. For healers, however, life is precious and must be preserved. Taking the healer's vows is in its essence similar to the vows of poverty taken by some religious orders, but not quite the same, as rich people can be healers if they wish, though it is very difficult for a rich person to set an ambition aside and help others. That doesn't mean healers are beggars with shaved heads. On the contrary, they are engaged in various professions in the everyday world. When they undertake to cure someone, they treat the patient with enthusiasm, goodwill, and without expectation of reward. One doesn't charge a tired and thirsty traveler who knocks on the door asking for a glass of water. To do that would be unworthy of the human spirit. The same is the case with the power of healing one receives as a gift that should not be exploited for one's personal gain. It is thus the fourth requirement of the healer's code that one does not charge for consultation. The healer who charges is cursed and is a step away from becoming a black magician. Those who turn their charity into a business need to repent, because healing the sick, just like illumination coming from the Spirit, must never serve commercial purposes. Healers who do so are cursed forever and will eventually lose the gifts they received, with nothing left them but their trickery. Many are those who have succumbed to the pressure of fame and fortune. It is easy for sorcerers to perform miracles and acquire devoted followers seeking their presence and their words. But one should know that those who combine their personal interests with matters of the spirit will be punished with terrible curses. To sum up, I warn as I myself was once warned. If you feel that your ambition is greater than your love for others, you'd best abandon the sorcerer healer's path, since any deviation from its purpose could bring about your own destruction. The healer's path must be pure from the beginning. It tolerates no hidden agenda and no diversion, because greed is like a cancer that starts very small but grows and grows, polluting the entire body. There are stories of people who requested to be trained in healing techniques, while externally displaying the best of attitudes. Within, they were putrid with lust and desire for recognition. One such story I heard tells of a certain Harlindo Onella, who for years faithfully followed the steps mandatory for becoming a healer. When he felt he had acquired enough knowledge, he became a peddler of healing and even opened a clinic in his hometown. He received money and favors from the residents until one day he was brought down by a mysterious illness. the healer could not heal himself. One may be punished by many calamities, bad luck, illness, and even death for breaking the sacred vows of the healers. But none of that is really bad compared to what is yet to come, as the ancients say. When the moment to disincarnate comes, the corrupt healer enters a vortex from which there is no escape. That is his punishment, his sentence, for trying to use the higher powers for personal gain. Each prospective apprentice is therefore repeatedly warned of the dangers they expose themselves to when they take the healer's oath. If, on hearing those words, one still decides to proceed, one would better be sure one's purpose is genuine, because if it is not, one would be better off leaving well alone.